Welcome to Fearless and Flawed. Today, we're joined by Kristin Smith, the founder of Well Supported Family, a national postpartum care agency operating in 14 states with over 200 team members. This is a woman who had her daughter at 19, was told by her entire family she'd never amount to anything, and quietly went on to build a multi-million-dollar company that helps families across America.
And the bit that gets me, she was working as a nanny, took 3 weeks off to have her baby, then brought the baby to work because she had no other option. No support, no safety net, different state from her family. She figured out how to get her daughter to sleep out of pure survival. And that became the foundation of everything she's built since.
She's also just had a 5-week-old through adoption after a long fertility journey. So she's living this in real time all over again while running a national company.
And I'm Serena, and I help bold leaders become the go to expert in their space.
And I'm Sarah, an email marketing pro here to convert clicks into cash. Together, Serena and I are two women in charge digging into the fearless, the flawed, and the fabulous journeys of female founders rewriting the rules.
So let's dive in. Welcome to our show, Kristin.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So, Kristin, you had a daughter at 19. I could go into the story that you told us offline. I'll leave that to you if you want to tell everyone your circumstance and really the spur of how you've become the person that you have become and the business that you now run.
Yeah. So I graduated high school, very quickly moved off to New York to be a full time nanny. Met somebody at a club. We dated for a few months. I was on birth controls and got pregnant. So my daughter's officially that 0.01%. Like I was doing all the right things, trying to be the responsible party versus free teenager going into my early 20s. I got pregnant and I remember going to Planned Parenthood and them confirming the pregnancy. And I called my mom on the way home and all she did was cry. She cried because she's like, your life is going to be so hard. Your life is going to be so different. You're going to not be able to go to college and do all the things that you want to do. And I got off that phone call and I was like, she could have just said to me, we're here for you and we're going to support you and we're going to support whatever decision you make for this child, right? And so I got in my mindset in that moment, I was like, I need to either conquer this or I need to like give in to that stereotype. So I continued on with my pregnancy. I had my daughter. I very quickly got her sleeping through the night so that I could go back to work. I would bring her with me. I remember at that time I had a family that had a 3-year-old and a 3-month-old, and I now had a newborn. I don't know how I did it. I juggled all 3 of them. There were many a times the mom would always be late from work, and I would end up nursing her baby and my baby at the same time because she didn't leave me enough milk. So I did the whole, like, wet nurse theory thing, which was pretty phenomenal. And it was in that moment of, like, juggling 3 children, struggling to pay my bills. I had a partner who didn't help me, and I was like, this cannot be my life. This cannot be my career. So I very quickly realized that the relationship wasn't going to work, moved back to Massachusetts, got an apartment, moved closer to my parents. So I have a little bit of like necessity babysitting, like so I could go back to school and training. I trained to be a postpartum and a birth doula. I also trained to be a midwife. And during my midwifery training, I worked overnights. So I would work overnights, 5 or 6 nights a week. And then I would go to the office and do my apprenticeship to be a midwife. And I was like living off of protein bars and coffee and survival of energy to push through. And every single birth I went to, I realized that there's not a lot of postpartum support. There's not a lot of focus on the actual healing and getting your body into a good place mentally and physically and taking care of a baby. There was so much thought that went into what's going to be written in my birth plan. What am I going to say yes to? What am I going to say no to? But there was no thought about how am I going to swallow my baby or soothe my baby or feed my baby and how am I going to sleep and then work the next day. Right. So I kind of took this approach where I focused on the new parents and the sleep. And I very quickly got out of midwifery, went back to being a postpartum doula, and focused on helping families build their child's sleep foundation. So from day one, teaching those babies that it's okay to fall asleep independently. It's okay, to not nurse for 10 hours straight throughout the night. It's okay to be in your own safe space. We're here and we're going to come to you and we're going to feed you when you're hungry. And then really try to work with parents and teach them how to get their babies into daytime routines, which then filtered into the night. And then my solo practice got really busy. And I was to the point where I was, pushing away work and saying no to clients and saying no to repeat clients because I just didn't have the bandwidth to handle it myself. And then I had the idea of starting an agency, which started off as Nightingale Night Nurses, founded in Boston. I had a team of like 5 or 6 people, and I was like, this is great. Maybe I'll have a team of 15. And then as it became more popular, as our clientele grew, as our clients were telling families in another state, as team members were moving, it just grew into a massive company. Now we have over 200 team members. We have solid teams in 14 states. We have a travel team. We have a team that lives in an RV, like RVs, and travels around the whole US. It's pretty phenomenal to have gotten to this point.
Now, I have to say, I have to be, hearing your story and reflecting back on my own life. So I've got a 19-year-old daughter, and reflecting back on your parents' reaction, I'm not sure I'd be any different at first, but listening to your story, I hear, it would be my own sadness, not, and it shouldn't be reflected back. So that's my first point here. I would obviously be very supportive. I know that you've got an older daughter as well now. She's not, no, she's, how old is she now?
She's 22 and she actually graduates from college next week, which feels like such a pivotal moment in like her life and my life. But I will tell you, Serena, the way that my mom responded to me totally shaped the way I parented my daughter, right? Like every single time something was hard for her or there was a situation she had to work through, I supported her feelings and I supported her where she was at. And I tried not to get my feelings involved. Like if I was sad or frustrated, I did it behind closed doors.
It's like, I wouldn't necessarily put that on. I wouldn't wish that for her at this stage. But if it was that case, then I would support her in every way possible, that any way that I could, absolutely. But at the same time, I can kind of still feel that reaction. I can feel it.
Yeah. I I always tell people, your best friend comes out of the closet and you're like out of the closet of like changing their outfit and you're getting ready to go out for the night and they're wearing like a shirt that maybe isn't the best color on them. And you could say, wow, that color looks like shit, go change. Or you could say, a slate blue sweater would really take out or bring out your blue eyes. I think that would look really good on you. And there's just a way to twist it. Like if my mom had said to me, this is going to be hard. You're young. You are doing this alone. It's going to be challenging, but I know you can do it. And I'm here every step of the way. Could have been so different for me, right? Like it could have molded me differently.
Absolutely. So where I'm coming from here is actually ties quite nicely to your story. Is the fact that I know how hard it is to be a mum, to have a child, to do it all. I mean, I have a husband, I have, a support circle around me, and it was still incredibly hard. So that's where I'm coming from. So a 19-year-old, to feel that, I mean, you must have been really scared. I would have been. I was really scared at 27 or whatever I was. So yeah, so that's that's really the point where I was coming from here. So what was the actual catalyst? When was it that you actually decided that, okay, sleep is so important and mothers need it, and I mean, really, it's just such a fascinating progression that so many of us could have come to and we never did.
Yeah, it was, one of the triggering pieces or one of the pieces that stands out in my mind is I was at a really hard birth where we almost lost the mom. And then it dawned on me that these midwives, because we were practicing as home birth midwives, that these midwives weren't getting enough sleep because we were constantly at birth and we were running on adrenaline, and it was our fifth birth that week and it was a really hard week. And it hit me that I can do better. I can help, these midwives who have young children at home. I can help them get more sleep when they are at home. I can help these women that have really hard careers. Can you imagine going in for a surgery and your doctor has a 3-month-old and they're not sleeping good at night? Right? Like that, they're going into this really big performance, not well rested. And so that was my pivoting moment of we need to do better and we can do better if we give the education and support. So then I just completely shifted and that's how it started.
I can honestly say I have never thought that. I
That's
have
true.
never walked in, and no, I know it's true. I've
Yeah.
been there. I've had no sleep and gone to work. I mean, I don't do anything that's would save anybody's life, but at the same time, I've done it. And I know absolutely every single woman I know that's had children has done that.
I think and Kristen, this, when I first got received the email a couple weeks ago, because what we do through Fearless and Flawed is there's a bit of a process where people are pitched to us, right? And it's hey, we have this fabulous person. And I'm reading through your story, very high level, and I am a new mom, right? I have a 4.5, soon to be 5-month-old. And I first of all was just yes, 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 yes. This service sounds great because sleep is so vital. Something that I find very interesting, and I'd love for you to kind of add some color to this, is that through my own journey as a new mom, typically what happens is there's a lot of outside voices and outside opinions and outside advice. And in my case, all incredibly well intentioned. But I'm going to give you an example. I have my mother, Barb, who is going to listen to this podcast. She works out on the elliptical every morning and listens to us, so she'll give me this feedback. But there's my mother's kind of viewpoint 40 plus years ago when she had her kids versus my sister-in-law's viewpoint, who I have a beautiful 5-year-old niece. And there have been different things like my niece went to daycare from 6 months on full time from 9 to 5. And when my niece was first going to daycare, my mom would quip "Oh, she doesn't need that much time away from home," or something to that degree of "Shouldn't you be with your baby?" Because my mom, well-intentioned, old school way of thinking 40 plus years ago is, wait. You're sending your kid off for the day? What the hell are you doing? Aren't you supposed to kind of be juggling it all? Aren't you isn't that the role of the mother to be tired and now you're having someone else take care of your kid? And I'm not suggesting that it comes from a place of anger, but it's more of what society expects out of what the mother should be. Well, you should be tired, right? You should be exhausted. Oh, you're not exhausted? You're refreshed? You little bitch. What are you doing differently? It's kind of a little bit of shouldn't we all be suffering together? And so when I saw your service, I thought, this is fantastic. But I wonder if when people do look well rested, when people do show up saying, I got 8 hours, I wonder if there's a little bit, and I don't know if jealousy is the right word. I don't want to say that, but I wonder if there's a little bit of, not jealousy, envy of oh, well, of course you could because it's a premium service. There's a little bit of oh, you got ahead, and that's agitating to the others who can't afford it or don't know it exists or it's not in their area. Because I do hear kind of in the background in my own journey, people want the best for you, but don't be away from your kid too much. Don't get too much sleep because who's taking care of the baby? How does that tie into kind of what you've been through and having to explain to people about your services, about the training? Because it does also come at a fee, which some might say is a premium fee. How do you kind of tie that all in?
Yeah, no, it's a really great question. So we get a lot of that from grandparents. We actually get a lot of grandparents that will call in and want to like gift their children 2 nights. And we're like, but why just 2 nights? Well, that's just enough to get them refreshed. And I was like, I mean, I would be a rock star if I could be refreshed on 16 hours of sleep and live my life. And then I say to the question to the grandparents, I was like, well, were you able to stay home and not work? And she's like, of course, this was like 40, 50 years ago or 30 years ago. And I was like, well, that's not the case now. Like women have careers, they're choosing to put themselves in a certain place and they're choosing and they're prioritizing their well-being so that they can be a better parent. And it's okay to say yes.
It's also not a choice today. We are not in a society where the man's money is normally enough. There are many, many families that are struggling on two incomes. The nuclear family setup that we all got raised to believe would be our case is not that
Doesn't
anymore.
exist
And there's
anymore.
still a
Yeah.
huge amount of guilt put on women to work. I mean, God, I have got the best husband in the whole world. Um, and this is gonna sound like a moan and a real dig at him, but ultimately, I used to ask him to babysit so I could have a break. So, you know, because I took it was my job. I took on that responsibility of the children. I worked. Started my own company and everything else whilst being same as you, being a mum. And I did have that support around me, but I still had that guilt too. I still put that guilt on myself.
Yeah. And that guilt is real. And I had to ask my first partner to babysit. I had to ask him to heat up a bottle. My husband now, I have to ask nothing. He is up in the middle of the night on the nights we have the baby, and he is like fantastic. But there is a huge amount of guilt. It's a guilt of they're going to bond with somebody else, or somebody else is going to be there taking care of them when they're crying and sad. And I always say there's nothing that's going to replace your bond with your baby. They're always going to know that you are their mother or you are their father. And it is so amazing that more people can love them in their life.
I just want to say very, very quickly, I'm just going to interject here that I asked my husband to babysit. He never asked me to ask him if he could babysit. I'm just going to clarify that.
We love Paul. Paul's a good guy. We love him. But I love what you're saying, Kristen. I do love what you're saying. What I'm hearing is like you are you do so much more than just teach babies to sleep, it sounds like, or to help moms sleep. What you're doing is giving reassurance that it's okay in a world where a lot of the mommy blogs are saying it's not okay, which is strange that sometimes those in the same position are the biggest criticizers. You would think they'd be more uplifting, but it sounds like you are really giving the ability for women to function, to return a little bit back, a little bit perhaps back to themselves, to feel okay, maybe with not feeling okay. Hey, that's normal to feel like someone else is quote unquote raising your child. Let me tell you why that's just a belief and the facts aren't really there. Like, that's what it sounds like you're doing, which is lovely.
Yeah, and we're also there to filter. We're there to filter all the different pieces of advice, and we, sit with them in the middle of the night when they are nursing their baby or they're pumping, and we say, tell us all the things, like all the feedback you're getting and all the suggestions, and we help them filter what feels good to them. Right? Like you can listen to every single bit of information someone gives you. It doesn't mean you need to take it. And it doesn't mean you need to use it and apply it. You can say, oh, that makes me feel awful, but this one makes me feel warm and fuzzy. I'm going to go with that. Or you can trial and error until you find your own way. Right. And that's really important too, is to tell them it's okay to listen. It's okay to not use it. And it's okay to do this your way. You are the controller of this vehicle and you've got this. And we're here to support you. And maybe we're going to give you suggestions on something that's worked previously, taking all of the pieces you're getting from your mother in law and your mom and your aunt and your sister. And we're going to help you do this the best way possible for you and your baby.
Being a mum of 2 children, the first one the first child, completely overwhelmed with everyone giving me advice, telling me how often you should feed your child, how often it should sleep, when you should wake it up, all of these different rules, what time should go to be the park, or and all of these things, which was overwhelming. Second child, chuck it into my back, off I went. Nothing. I knew what I was doing and I was comfortable with it. But being a new mum, having that flood of information and feels like judgment in a lot of cases, not necessarily meant that way, but it can feel very damning for somebody who's trying to feel for it and really trying really hard to do the best by this tiny little human thing that they've created.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of silent judgment where just like a dirty look or you feel like you're being judged without words, and then moms or parents are afraid to go out into public because somebody gave them a dirty look for nursing or gave them a dirty look for wearing their baby or their baby's in a stroller and how come you're not holding them? And so all these thoughts start circulating in their head of like, am I not doing this right? And I just say, ignore them, put on your sunglasses and go for it and just ignore them.
I remember sorry. I was just about to say, I remember feeding my child. It worked out to be a toilet. It was like a baby change area and feeding area, and it was a toilet, and I'm like, "I wouldn't eat in a toilet." But
The things you do. So let me ask you this, Kristen. So new moms find you, they Google. I'm just trying to for those listeners, because I've extensively looked at the process. But let's say our listeners are like, well, how does it work? You keep talking about the reassurance, about the support that your company gives, but I'm a new mom. How do I find you? What are the services available? And then what do those are you coming to my house? Am I going to classes? Do you have to stay with me for 6 months minimum to get that baby sleep trained? Is there a guarantee that, hey, when you choose us, that baby is going to be good in 2 weeks? So how does that work from soup to nuts?
Yeah, so we are Googleable, right? If you Google well supported family or even our older name, Nightingale Night Nurses, most parents fill out a contact form on our website. We do offer overnight care, daytime care, 24/7 care, sleep training, and nanny placements. So once you fill out our form, we'll very quickly send you an email to set up a call with us. We'll do a discovery call and we'll break down everything you're looking for. And I want to say that every single family's needs are different, right? Some might be calling us because they just want a couple nights a week where they don't have to think about anything and they can sleep and we come in and take care of their baby. Or there's the families who want us to come in and get their babies into routines and sleeping, right? So our pitch is we can't guarantee that your baby will sleep. Every baby's different. We don't know if there's going to be undiagnosed medical issues or reflux or if the parents are going to follow what we're doing and suggesting, because if you don't, then that kind of like messes up the process, right? So we always say anywhere from 1 to 3 nights a week is like respite care. We come in, we help rescue you, we take care of your baby, we feed them, we take care of them. Anything from 4 to 7 nights a week for like 8 to 12 weeks, we can work on sleep conditioning or sleep shaping. What that looks like is we work on your baby's natural rhythms and patterns and we build on them. So there's no crying, there's no leaving a baby in their crib by themselves to scream it out. We are feeding them on a schedule. And when they wake up and if they're not hungry, we soothe them back to sleep. Most of the time on the side of their crib with a pacifier or like a gentle little chest rub, or maybe we're like rubbing their third eye. We get them back to sleep and we encourage them to sleep independently. So we don't hold them for hours on end of sleep. We encourage them to be in their own sleep space and sleeping independently. And then we work with parents on the importance of a daytime routine. We give them schedules, we give them access to our video series, which I'll hit in another minute. And we talk about how important it is that babies, in order for them to sleep longer stretches at night, need to get their calories and their sleep in during the day. So it's not just day and night, it's the whole puzzle is connected. So everything that happens during the day sets you up for nighttime. So if your baby's eating every 4 hours during the day and only catnapping for 15 minutes, they're not going to sleep because they're overtired. So if you are doing something called an eat, play, sleep, which you feed them, play a little bit, get work, stimulate their brain and get them tired, and then put them to sleep, they're going to sleep better and longer. And then the goal is to wake them up at that 3 hour window and start that process all over again. So if you do that and you follow that pattern, then at night we can start working on stretching our sleep out. The theory is the 6-week-old baby can do a 6 hour stretch. An 8-week-old baby can do an 8 hour stretch. A 12-week baby can do a 12 hour stretch. So we're constantly, playing on their natural rhythms and patterns and stretching out one chunk of sleep at a time. So eventually, they're going to go to bed at between 7:30 and 8 p.m. and they're going to sleep till 4 and then 5 and then 6 and then 7. And we're going to get them through that night. For the parents that can't afford or don't have the ability to have in home care, we created a video series. We literally filmed everything that we do with babies step by step, week by week, for the first 12 weeks to teach parents how to teach their babies how to sleep through the night. So that's called baby care classes. And that's something that we give access to all of our clients because we think it's really important that they can visualize the daytime routine and visualize what we're doing. So if we're there, 4 nights a week, they can also do this on nights 5, 6, and 7. Right. So it's a helpful tool for them to have in addition to our services, or it's a helpful tool for parents who can't have our services.
Damn, I'm past the 12-week mark. And what does anyone ever does it have to be before 12 weeks, or do people say, "Okay, listen, I thought I could tough it out. I thought I could do this. I'm on month 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like, help me out." So it doesn't have to just be newborns. People can come back at later months?
Yeah, so we offer sleep training services and we take a very gentle approach. Every baby, if you decide to come back to us at 6 months old or 5 months old and your baby's really struggling, we'll have you keep a 5-day log and we'll go through every single thing that's happening. And maybe our first approach is to wean them off of milk at night, right? And we're going to do a very delayed 2-week plan to wean them off milk. And then we're going to dive in and do a sleep training plan. We can either do in person or virtual. And we ask you, what are you comfortable with? The difference between sleep conditioning and sleep training is that sleep conditioning is done from 0 to 12 weeks, and it's building and establishing healthy sleep habits. Sleep training is breaking habits that are already there. So in the first 12 weeks, there's no crying or fussing. There's maybe they're showing frustration and they're annoyed and they're making noises, but sleep training is you're breaking bad habits and there's going to be some amount of crying. And we ask you, what are you comfortable with? Are you comfortable with crying it out? Are you comfortable with a more hands-on approach? Like what works for you? Because in order for you to be successful and follow this, you have to do something that you're comfortable with. So every baby, every family is a different situation, and we really take that into consideration. So, yes, you can absolutely come to us when your baby's 6, 7, 8, 9 months old, 10 months old, and really getting their teeth in. We hit every single stage of sleep. We even sleep train toddlers.
Wow. And how did you you're across the entire country now, which I think from a business perspective, okay, we know what you do, we know how you do it, but now you have over 200 team members. You are, I believe, in 14 states. How did you scale it? Because I mean, you're trusting someone to be with a baby, and since you have all this background and, midwifery and all this, how do you find the right people? What's the process? Is it easier, harder than one would think? And how do you guarantee, I guess, that your business quality and your name is preserved as you expand?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I'm so glad that you asked that. So, I really care about the training that these women have taken. I care that it's accredited. I care that it's approved by the NCSA. The NCSA is the Newborn Care Specialists Association. I care that they have enough families and hours under their belt. So, my criteria is somebody needs to have a course that's approved by the NCSA. a minimum of 3 years of in-home experience. I don't want to hear that you've had your own children. I don't want to hear that you worked in a daycare. I don't want to hear that you volunteered as a cuddler in the NICU. I want to know that you have been working in somebody's home and caring for these babies specifically overnight. So that is my minimum criteria. And being nationwide, it's very hard. It's very hard because I'm not face to face with these women. I am talking to them over Zoom or I am talking to them on the phone. But I also have networks of, when a team member moves to another state, they can meet with the person in person if I feel like they fit our criteria. I'll fly to the States and like take my entire dinner and meet with them and have that personal level. I personally talk to every single team member that comes onto our team. Like I am part of that onboarding process. There's multiple steps they need to get to before they get to me. And we probably get 25 to 40 applicants a month. And, you could see my team have 200, right? So we obviously don't take all of those people because we have such a strict criteria. But there'll be times where I'm like, ooh, this person has so much potential. Come back to me in a year. Reach out to me in a year. Reach out to me after you gain more experience. Or if it's like a nanny coming in and changing careers into being a newborn care specialist, a postpartum doula, I will be like, let's mentor you. You have this foundation, you understand scheduling, you understand routines, you understand what it's like working in someone's home. Let's work together on this, you know? So that's pretty much it in a nutshell of how we build our team, but we definitely don't say yes to everybody that comes our way.
Let's talk about the business aspect of thing, and particularly, I'm going to focus here on the marketing. So your whole business model, not only does your clientele grow up and move on, you are essentially every time you walk into a home and you get that sleep schedule in place, you're effectively putting yourself out of work. So you have to have that constant. So what is your methodology for keeping your clients high, and what is it that you do? How are you marketing and all the good stuff here?
I love these questions today. They're so good. We actually joke on the phone with parents that we are really good at putting ourselves out of a job. It's one of the only industries where you do such a good job that they don't need you anymore. So with that, our goal is that we catch them when they're having their first baby and that we can do babies 2, 3, and 4 if they choose to have more. Our goal is that we impacted their lives so positively that they're going to tell their friends and family, right? That we are going to always be on their mind in some way, shape, or form. I mean, I have a couple families that I've worked with personally, maybe more than a couple, that text me every year at their children's birthday and say, my 10-year-old, my 12-year-old is still sleeping really well. And we thank you for that. Another thing that we do is we don't send a thank you gift when we're done working with them. We send a 1-year birthday gift. We think it's really important to kind of ping their brain of like, oh, they were part of our journey, right? And maybe they're starting to think about number 2. Maybe their friends are having babies. Maybe their sister's having babies. So we always try to kind of sprinkle out little tidbits. In terms of marketing and creative ways, we're always at events, we're always at parenting events, we're always talking with doctor's office and hospitals. If I'm ever at a hospital, I ask if I can like pop up to labor and delivery or the NICU and introduce myself. Even though they already know who we are, it's nice to see my face. Or sometimes I'll bring like a basket of snacks or bring in a box of Joe from Dunkin's and feed the nurses and remind them of like, they're important to us. You guys refer us. We care about you. So I always try to do really creative marketing things to kind of have people always thinking about us in one way or another.
I love that. I think we live in a day and age where like people forget the power of like a handwritten thank you note, the power of a box of coffee, a cup of joe, a box of donuts for those tired nurses. Like, I think, this day and age, people are always trying to, with AI, how can we do something that is so revolutionary that people remember us? And sometimes what I'm hearing is like, I just present myself. I show up. I show up with purpose. I say, hey, thanks for referring us. Let me feed you because you probably haven't eaten. I love that. And that's a reminder. That's a reminder for our listeners. You don't have to be extravagant. You just have to be consistent.
It really is. And this morning, one of my admins called me and said, "Hey, we have this client whose pediatrician, recommended us at their appointment yesterday." I was like, "Can you please get that pediatrician's name and address? I want to send them a thank you card." And I always try to do that when we can. Another thing I do, we handwrite birthday cards to every single one of our team members and send them a birthday card with a Starbucks gift card in it because I want them to know that we appreciate them too. Right. So, like, I do that for their birthday. And then maybe on Mother's Day or Valentine's Day, I send them another card thanking them. Some years I have had all of my team members stop at the store and pick up flowers on Mother's Day and bring them in for our clients. And then I'm going to just like add it to your next invoice and I'll reimburse you. So, little tidbits of sprinkling things just to make people feel seen and heard and valued is so important.
I love that. Well done. Well, I know when Serena and I worked together, I don't know if you remember this, Serena. Um, there were times where it was like, how do I thank my retailers? So I had a bath and body company and it was sold in a bunch of toy stores and retailers. And I remember Serena and I were brainstorming, especially those that sold a lot of the product. What do we do? What do we do? Handwritten letter, and Serena being the marketing, creative whiz that she is, making a little I think we did chocolate covered beans, espresso beans, and it's like we did a funny play on like words with like, I don't know, you're the best bean or what, who knows. But the point is, it was a little thank you. It was a little care package. And the amount of people, and again, it was just to say thank you. I mean, you are essentially selling a lot of our product, but the amount of those retailers who would just post a Facebook story or an Instagram story, not because we asked them to, but oh, look what Zoe Coco sent us. Do you find that I'm have to assume that moms, they get the flowers for Mother's Day, or the nurses get the donuts, the coffee. And with social media these days, click, click, look what I just got, from formerly known as Nightingale Nurses Well Supported Family. Look what I just got. Is that what you see a lot of things just kind of organically happening?
Sometimes. I mean, I wouldn't say a lot because they're still in like their sleep deprived time where they're just trying to get through their day to day. But I get thank you notes when we send out a birthday card or we send a birthday book and a birthday card to the 1 year babies. And I get the most beautiful thank yous for that. Another thing that's really touching for me is every now and then I get a birth announcement from a client of their baby. And I'm just like, because I don't get to see the babies anymore. I don't get to hold them and play with them. I'm working in my office behind the scenes and not interacting day to day. So when I get that, I'm like, and I email them, I'm like, that just made my day. I'll get a text or a call sometimes from the doctor's offices because I'm friends with some of them. It's funny because I actually just ordered mugs and did a custom private label for coffee bags and like came up with about really funny names for midwives and OBs. So, and then I printed mugs that say in my baby catching era, just like pulling off of the whole Taylor Swift thing. So I'm really excited to see how those are taken in.
Right. So everyone that receives this is going to be thrilled and they won't know how to say thank you. So tell them, just like say, if this has touched you, please share. Nobody knows how, you'll get a thank you or a note or a well-meaning to do something. Just ask them, take a photo and put it on Instagram or just ask them for that. Very, very simple and they'll be thrilled.
That's perfect. I love that. Thank you.
In tradition, we have asked our previous guest a question to ask you. They didn't know who you were, they didn't know who you were going to be. We didn't either at the time, so this is very exciting. And now I'm going to give you the question that they asked. The question is, I'll let Sarah tell you the story of who she was in a minute. I think this is such a great question. I'm just going to ask it. If you were gifted a goat, What would you name it?
The backstory, while you think, Kristin, is our previous guest owned a goat milk skincare company. So, using goat milk, all sorts of nourishing body lotions and creams and all that good stuff. And she naturally, the company had, I believe, 12 goats on premise. That was like a petting zoo and all that good stuff. So, that's where the very random goat question comes from. But what would you name the goat? If you had it, a baby goat. That's the tie-in,
A
right?
baby goat. A baby goat. You know,
We really got her.
it would be a name that I would want to call every day, right? And have it run through my yard to me. I would probably name it Sally. I've never met an animal or a person named Sally that I haven't liked. And I feel like Sally is something that I could call upon for help or support and not think of something negative or bad. And it just feels kind of fitting to have Sally the goat running
I
around.
I love that. I've never know I don't think I've ever even really met a real Sally.
yeah, same.
I've met two in my
No, I
life.
have. No, I do know a Sally. There you go. Look, the moment I said it.
You know what I think is so funny? I think because when you were thinking, Kristin, about the answer, I was thinking, what would my answer be? And I always love when animals have like real names. Like I have a friend who has a dog named Ralph. Like Ralph, like I get that there's like, oh, cutesy things like, oh, this is Furball. Oh, this is Meow Meow. Like that's cute. Don't get me wrong. But like, as you're answering, I'm like, I would just give it like an official government name. I'd be like, this is Miss Vanessa J. Smith. It would be just something really legit. And so I love your answer.
So growing up, my aunt had a Great Dane and she named it Kitty. So she would be like, here, kitty, kitty. And for people who didn't know her, this like massive horse-sized dog would come running. And in my mind, I was like, ooh, that's like a good trick on people. I don't want to do that with an animal coming in my yard. So that was like in the back of my head.
I actually really love the absurdity of that. There's something about that that really appeals to me.
So absurd. And what would you ask our next guest? You have no idea who they are, what industry they work in, what area of life they're in, but what is something, and again, it doesn't have to be related to your business. Anything on the top of your head that you want to ask. It can be related to the business, who knows?
Are you a fan of hiring overnight support or not overnight support?
Oh, and I love, okay, so let me ask you this. So this is assuming this would be the assumption. Oh, well, no, they wouldn't necessarily have to. It's just the idea of it. Ooh, this
The
is a
idea of
good
it.
one
Yeah.
because it really brings out.
Yeah.
Ooh,
I have to say, do you know what? Out of all the services for children and babies and things like that, so daycare, like daycare, nobody bats an eyelid at daycare anymore. But why the hell should you be sleep deprived? You could be the one looking after your child, alive, healthy, excited to be there. It, I didn't have night support.
It's really It's really mind-boggling that people will drop tens of thousands of dollars on one day for a wedding and not, $15,000 on their child's sleep foundation for the rest of their life. Like, that will never make sense to me.
It's not just the child's sleep, it's everything connected to it.
Yeah,
It's the
it's
parent's
everything
sleep.
connected.
It's
Yeah,
the daytime activities where your child is learning to walk and talk that you're too tired to appreciate or participate in so much.
because the way you put your baby to sleep every night and the way you respond to them will be how you put them to sleep and respond to them when they're 3 and 4, and that will be that habit forever, right? Like, I have neighbors who their kids still get up in the middle of the night and crawl into their bed, and they're 10 and 7. So that stays with them. This is something that it's a short-term investment that will stay with them for the rest of their life. In your life. I mean, you can imagine blissfully sleeping in bed with your partner and your baby sleeping in their crib all night. And then you get up in the morning and see each other, and it's so wonderful because you missed them and everyone's well rested and happy. I think we should talk about sleep training.
Well, you know what I think is very interesting as we're chatting about this? I had a friend enlighten me on medical training, doctor training, that when you're in your residency, you have such little sleep, and how studies have shown that the likelihood of getting into a car accident, that the likelihood of all these horrific things, in residency, and if you look into it, the backstory is that the person who set up the foundation for residency, he himself was on cocaine. This is a true story. And so the program is based on basically lack of sleep, being bright-eyed and bushy-tailed through illegal substances, if you will. But that has become the norm now. Now, I'm just thinking as you're talking to me, and it's something that I'm like, wait, that actually has never been really, that idea has never been tied to motherhood and lack of sleep. How many moms are driving to work? Okay, driving to work, operating a vehicle, tired, are taking care of a second child, tired, are, like you said, doctors and doing surgeries or machine, like, for some reason, it's like we just forget that, like, okay, yeah, mom's tired, but I'm sure if you did a study and maybe you have those stats, what is the likelihood that you're a harm to yourself? I'm not just talking, "Hey, I'm tired," but, like, you should not be driving right now. You should not be in the air control, seat right now monitoring these planes. Like, does that ever come, or has that ever come up in your research about, like, what the stats are in terms of how harmful it can be?
Yeah, and I can follow up with stats afterwards for you, but sleep deprivation is equivalent to being drunk, right? So, like, if you think about how sleep deprived you are and you're driving a car, it's like you're driving drunk. Another thing to think about too is like when you have a surgery, what do they tell you you need to recover? Sleep, right? When you're getting ready for a big presentation, what do they tell you to do? Sleep. When you have a medical condition that you're trying to fix, what do they tell you? To sleep. So sleep is the core of our being so that we can function. It also helps reduce maternal mental illness. It helps to every single mom or parent that I know that went through postpartum anxiety or postpartum depression or postpartum psychosis, it's usually related to lack of sleep. So, sleep fixes a lot of our problems. And if we can just, as a society, embrace that we need to support these new moms and we need to go over to them and visit them and bring a warm meal and say, go take a nap and a hot shower. I've got everything else. I'm going to do your dishes. I'm going to do your laundry. I'm going to take your baby. I'm going to do whatever you need me to do so you can sleep. And it's amazing because in my own journey this time around, I'm surrounded by postpartum professionals, and every single person that's come into my home to visit us that, is a colleague or has the same training to me is like, go take a nap, go take a shower, do whatever you need to do. I got you. And those words are so powerful for a new parent.
So going full circle here, for one, I was one of those really annoying parents that had the baby that slept all through the night from day one. I'm just bragging here, but and I was always tired. But but just just taking us back a step here, when you think about how society has changed, about how we live our lives, we have cars, we drive further away from our families. I mean, my grandparents used to live down the road from their parents, and society has changed, life has changed, all changed. And and we still haven't we don't appreciate how much support our their parents got raising children. Just by mums not working or their parents being across the road and stuff like that. And we need to not martyr ourselves like many of us women do, and to appreciate that's and you're still gonna be tired. It's tiring having children, and that's okay, but you don't have to go to extremes. You don't have to exhaust yourself to the point that that it affects your life negatively. And so the service that you're offering is phenomenal in this day and age, and I wish I knew about it, even if I did have children that slept through the night. I didn't know that this service existed, so yeah, that's all I
What
wanted to
does the
add.
future hold, Kristen? I mean, you've set up this great foundation. Serena, I agree with you. You know, it's a matter of just knowing it exists and then making the choice. But if you don't even know it exists, then what is the choice there? So what's the next year look like? The next 5 years look like for the business?
Yeah, I mean, the goal is to have local teams in more states. The goal is to make us more readily available to everyone that needs us in any way we can support them, and meeting parents where they're at and teaching them that no, we don't have our village like we had 10, 20, 30 years ago. You're responsible for building your own modern village, and it's okay and normal to ask for help. So the goal is to make that the norm, to make it the norm that it's okay and we're here and we're going to support you. And then also just to make us accessible for, hundreds of thousands of families.
Wow. What a, like an amazing I have to imagine if I were you to go to bed at night thinking like I've had real impact, like impact on the child, impact on the mother, impact on the family, impact on the broader circle, because you have now helped form such a healthy habit. And if anyone's listening who is like, hey, I'm in one of the states where you have a presence, or I know someone, or I'm getting ready to have kids, how can people find you? Where do they go? You had mentioned like an intake form. What does the whole process look like in learning more about your services and then getting in touch?
Yeah, so they can find us on our website at wellsupportedfamily.com. They can find us on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook. They, go to our website, just fill out the form. We will reply to you immediately. I'm on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook. I get so many private messages of people that need help and support. We're here for that. And then once you fill out the little form, we will set up a call with you, and the rest we walk you through step by step. But I also want to add really quick to what you just said about, impacting people's lives. You know, I value my clients and my team members equally. So I feel like I've also impacted the lives of my team members to be able, like a lot of them have small children, and I've created this job for them where they can work at night and be home with their kids during the day, or sleep during the day, get their kids at school and make it to their sports events or their school events. So I feel like I've impacted lives with giving families sleep and helping them enjoy parenthood and enjoying their child, and growing and sleeping with their family as their kids get older and really enjoying that. But I've also helped impact team members to have a career and to do something that they love and value that also supports their family. So I look at those things together, and so importantly, because it means a lot to me.
And just to round this off with what we talked about in the pre-chat, none of this would have been possible. You wouldn't have got to this conclusion if you hadn't have got pregnant at 19.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the whole thing here. It was that struggle at the start, and that you found the solution, and that you've built this entire empire on that, and and every woman before you has had, or not every woman, but so many women have had children and struggled and never come to this conclusion to actually do
Yeah.
this.
Kudos to you. And anyone who's listening, we do this on video. And right before we joined on, to do the official chat, if you will, Kristen popped on the video. She looks fabulous. She looks very well rested. And I said to her, I said, "Damn girl, you got a 5 month old, correct? 5 month old now?" I said,
Five
"Oh,
weeks.
I'm sorry, 5 week. I'm sorry. I'm the one with the 5 month." I literally, for a hot second, I'm not even kidding you. I actually forgot I had a 5 month old. When Serena's like, "You have the 5 month old." I'm like, "I do." Mommy brain is
There's both a five
okay,
there.
there's
We're
both the
fine.
5, but I have to say, and like you look very well rested. You look fabulous. And you said to me before we started recording, you said, "I practice what I preach." So for anyone listening, because every now and then we do chat with people, perhaps like high level, no one in particular I can think of, but like high level life coaches that like behind the scenes, like their life is in shambles. And I'm like, how are you a fucking life coach? But you are someone, right, Serena? We've had a couple of cases of
We've had a
a
couple.
couple pre-chats where we're like, we just can't move you forward. This doesn't make sense. But you are someone who walks the walk, talks the talk. And again, for anyone looking really for that guidance and for that judgment-free zone, because that's as I get to know more about you and your business, it's moving at the pace that the mother, that the father, that the family is looking for. So anyone who wants to know more, check out Kristin, check out the website, but know that you are definitely in safe hands because she is exactly who she says she is on and off the camera. So thank you so much, Kristin. This has been wonderful, and it gives me hope as a new mom that I will sleep again. Um,
You will.
one
I can tell you that.
one day. Thank you. This has been absolutely delightful.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.